Hello, YouTube, and welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. I have 4 articles for you in this episode. The URLs are in the description of this video. You may have noticed the last episode I did was cut a little short, and that has to do with the fact that my internet service dropped. This whole thing works a lot better if you have internet service. So we'll pick up where we left off and go from there. The first article that I have for you is off of BizPack Review, and it says here, witnessed a well-orchestrated effort to oust Michael Flynn. Flynn resigned as national security advisor over a leaked phone call with the Russian ambassador. Washington insiders began pointing to signs is part of a campaign to undermine the Trump administration. Former Obama officials and national security bureaucrats could be to selectively leak highly sensitive information, such as the transcript of Flynn's call with the ambassador, writes Eli Lake in Bloomberg. Such leaks are unusual. U.S. intelligence services often monitor phone calls, but are supposed to protect the identity and speech of Americans involved in such calls. Try this again. The goal of this leak could be to undermine Trump's government. The question someone in the White House should ask the National Security Agency is why it didn't use minimum procedures to protect Mr. Flynn, the Wall Street Journal editorial board asked in a piece Monday night, or have a court order to listen to Mr. Flynn, and how did it justify that judicial request? Raised a point on Twitter on Tuesday. The real story here is, why are there so many illegal leaks coming out of Washington, he tweeted. Will these leaks deal on North Korea, etc.? Flynn's resignation followed accusations he lied to Vice President Mike Pence about a phone call he had with the ambassador against American sanctions against Russia. The call took place in December before Trump took office and may have violated laws prohibiting from conducting foreign policy. Flynn said in his resignation letter he inadvertently gave Pence incomplete information about the phone call and said both Pence and Trump had accepted his apology. But the Trump administration suggested it didn't buy the incomplete information line and suggested it was closer to a deliberate lie. Either way, the information embarrassed Pence, who inadvertently lied on national television about the call because of the information Flynn presented. The misinformation is reportedly what sealed his ouster, but just another possibility is that the lie was really just the final straw that pushed him out the door. The White House forbid Flynn from defending himself over the weekend as he was inundated with negative press, he points out. So if it was really the lie that sunk him, fired in January when the administration was alerted to it, was in fact on rocky footing from the start of. There does appear to be a well-orchestrated effort to attack Flynn and others in the administration. Republican Representative Devin Nunes, who Select Intelligence Committee, told Bloomberg phone calls between the president and foreign leaders to what appeared to be high-level FISA court information to the leaking of American security clearances. It looks like a pattern. Told reporters Select Intelligence Committee would not open an investigation into Flynn, but that the committee would investigate the source of the leak and why Flynn was being recorded when he spoke with the ambassador. So there you have that one. Is off of Conservative Tribune. To catch up to me, here we go. Breaking. Kim Jong-un's brother assassinated in airport. Female killers with poison needles. And get it to scroll up here a little bit. Half-brother of North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un was murdered Tuesday in Malaysia by 2 women who reportedly used poison needles to kill him before fleeing in a taxi, according to South Korea's TV Chosun. It's cautioned, however, that it has been unable to confirm the exact details What is known is that the dictator's half-brother, Kim Jong-nam, had been waiting for a flight at Kuala Lumpur International Airport when someone grabbed or held his face from behind, according to Malaysian police official Fadzig Ahmed. We don't know if there was a cloth or needles. The receptionist said someone grabbed his face. He felt dizzy. Amat noted, so far there are no suspects. Scroll up. We have started investigations and are looking at a few possibilities to get leads. Was taken to an airport clinic where, whoops, it went a little too far. Gotta love technology. Victim was taken to an airport clinic where he reported still feeling unwell. It was later decided to transport him to a nearby hospital, but he died while en route in the ambulance. What remained to be determined was whether his half-brother had anything to do Jong Un's lacked, or try this again, it jumped. Okay, whether his half-brother had anything to do with what happened to be the murder. Argued that there was plenty of motivation. The BBC noted that Kim Jong-nam was quoted in a 2012 book saying that he believed Kim Jong-un lacked leadership skills and that his succession to their late father's position as North Korea's supreme leader would ultimately fail. And I'm waiting for it to scroll up here. It's got some related video in it if you want to pull that up to see that. Reason it wants to try to insist that I watch it, whether I want to or not. I'm trying to shut it down so I can keep reading. Come on. Okay. Moreover, Kim Jong-nam fallen out of favor with his family after he reportedly tried to enter Japan with a false passport in 2001, claiming at the time that he wanted to visit Tokyo Disneyland. Despite conflicting reports about what actually happened to Kim Jong-nam, South Korea, well, it's jumping, okay. South Korea media already certain that he was indeed assassinated by North Korean operatives and have cited multiple government sources as their proof, according to the New York Times. I have here's off of, and I'm waiting. Here we go. Breaking. Donald Trump just got exactly what he needs to save the VA. One of President Donald Trump's biggest campaign promises with it was that he was going to help our vets by fixing the broken VA. Well, guess what just happened? The U.S. Senate just unanimously confirmed David Sulkin to lead the Department of Veteran Affairs. Sulkin was senators on both sides that despite most of Trump's cabinet members getting delayed, the Senate approved him in under 10 minutes. Sulkin served the undersecretary of the VA under Obama and has worked hard to find a middle ground between conservatives and liberals for the Department of Veterans Affairs. For the liberals, he has promised not to privatize the VA, and for the conservative, he has promised more integration with the private sector to make more options of health care available. As proof of his commitment to our veterans, he requested that Congress hold him 100% accountable for reforming and improving the VA. Otherwise, they should fire him and find someone better. About making these changes and regaining that trust, and if I don't do it, I should be held accountable, and you should replace me, he says. Interestingly enough, David Sulkin is the first ever person to be or to head the VA without ever serving in the U.S. Armed Forces. So let's celebrate by sharing this great news to everyone everywhere. And there's some video in this. Says Trump brings veteran to tears. And there, There's a veteran that they're speaking to in that, if you want to pull that up and see it. The next one we have here is off of, it says exclusive. SEIU skims Medicaid for dues. Year-old single mother living in Duluth, Minnesota. She has asked that her name be withheld in this story for fear of retaliation. In 2009, Holly began work as a personal care assistant, or a PCA, to care for an ailing friend of her family. She participates in a state program called PCA Choice, which pays modest Medicaid subsidy to those who care for loved ones. Participants are women who care for children or spouses with severe mental or physical disabilities. In 2013, Governor Mark Dayton, Democrat, signed into law legislation that declared these home care providers public employees on the rationale that they receive public funds, but only for purposes of collecting. Try this again. But only for purposes of collective bargaining. Not surprisingly, Dayton's friends in the Service Employees International Union, the SEIU, quickly moved in. I first met Holly in rural Iron Range coffee shop in autumn of 2016, where she told me she remembered first hearing about the SEIU organizing drive of the PCA program in early 2013. She didn't think much of it at first, but later that year, she had her first visit from the union representative. Holly had just returned home from shopping when she escorted her patient inside prior to unloading the groceries. She noticed a woman sitting in a parked car in front of the house. As Holly gathered the groceries, the woman got out of the car and approached her. Well dressed in a white suit and had an accent that indicated that she was not from Minnesota. The woman identified herself as an SEIU representative and asked if they could talk for a few minutes. Holly said she didn't have time right now, but the woman persisted, placing herself between Holly and the front door and repeatedly asking her to vote in the upcoming union election. Arms full of groceries, she could hear her patient becoming agitated and distressed inside, and the strange woman blocking her way and demanding to know how she would vote. Holly finally extricated herself and entered the door behind her. At the end of things, over the next weeks and months, she received multiple calls and visits from the union. I asked Holly how she would characterize the nature of these calls and visits. Absolutely, she told me that they wouldn't leave me alone. She remembered one of the last calls she received from the union, something late spring of 2014. I was asking the guy tons of questions, she told me. They would, or they could do great things for us PCAs, but the guy couldn't give me a straight answer. I felt like he was just trying to guilt me into going for the union. I became fed up and told him that when my ballot came, I intended to vote no, and then hung up. The badgering and the stalking had infuriated Holly to the point where she couldn't wait to vote no. She waited for her ballot. They had told her, and she was looking out for it, but Holly's ballot never arrived. I asked her positive, she responded. They scared me. I didn't want them anywhere near my patients or my money. I looked for I looked for that ballot every day in the mail. It never came. In late 2014, the SEIU claimed victory in the election of some 27,000 PCAs claimed were in the bargaining unit. Only 5,872 votes, 3,543 voted for the union in place, giving SEIU a 3% cut of the PCA's Medicaid payments in dues. Supreme Court decision in Harris versus Quinn, however, unions representing public workers can only collect dues from those who opt in. Nevertheless, in August of 2015, less than a month after the contract went into effect, Holly noticed that union dues were being taken out of her check. Not only had she been denied the opportunity to vote in the election, she had never signed a dues deduction authorization nor agreed to have the union. She complained repeatedly to union leadership, but For months, dues continued to be extracted from her pay. Eventually, the withholding stopped, but she demanded a refund for the dues she never agreed to. She's still waiting for that refund. Allowed me to view her correspondence with the union as well as receipts proving the dues deduction. Did the SEIU deliberately not mail Holly a ballot because they knew she'd vote no? Ballot to all eligible PCAs in the original election as they're required by law to do? Other care workers interviewed by the Center for Worker Freedom of 2016 have similar stories of union malfeasance that to question the legitimacy of the 2014 election certified the SEIU as bargaining representatives of the PCA's email request for details of its role in the PCA program went unanswered. Imagine that. So there's what I have for you in this episode, and there will be more to follow. If you like what I'm doing here, give it a thumbs up and share it on your social media so everybody gets to hear the news. And don't forget to subscribe. That way you'll stay informed.